I'm Tom. I'm an office worker you can find anywhere. My acquaintances call me Gorgo. I may look tough on the outside, but inside I am timid and scared. I have a personality that makes me incapable of using guns. I've always had a complex about my looks because I don't want people to freak out when I meet them for the first time. Although I look like this, I don't have the personality to actively engage in conversation. I was a botched and unsophisticated student, unable to get along with others well. However, I had a fateful encounter in college. I met a woman at a seminar and she didn't judge me by my looks, she saw the me inside. She always speaks to me cheerfully and makes my boring stories come alive. It only took a moment for me to fall in love. I was crazy about my first love, so I approached her in hopes of getting her to turn to me, and I tried my hand at fashion for the first time in my life. Somehow it worked out, and we even developed a relationship, and I was so excited about her. I did whatever she told me to do. She loves a certain luxury brand, and so I give it to her as a gift at least once a month. I was a student at the time, and I worked part-time to pay for most of it myself, but I was spoiled by my parents for the shortfall. Well, now that I think about it, I guess she went out with me for the money. I pay for the whole date.
I want to stay at a Disney hotel for Christmas this year. Also, I'd love a brand new bag as a Christmas present. So, Tom, please.
She even specified a gift. At the time, I was enamored with her and gladly did what she said, but now that I think about it, I regret it. Her demands continued to escalate, and one day, just before she graduated from university, she said to me,
I hope to be married before I graduate.
At that time, I was really excited and ended up getting married. The next day, I proposed to her by handing over the marriage certificate and a ring. We hurriedly decided on a house to live in and joined the registry the day before the graduation ceremony. The house was also a used but newer house that my parents had bought for me. I really regret having married so thoughtlessly. After we graduated from college, I was excited about my new life. But to my surprise, my wife had quit her job.
I stopped doing it because it became a bit of a hassle. You are rich. And you're working, so we'll be fine. Tom, can I count on you?
She said this to me with an upright look and informed me that she had quit. She also appealed that it was not her fault, saying, I really wanted to be a housewife and men should earn money. Although I was bothered by such a wife, I forgave her because I was in love with her. In fact, I was even happy that my wife was there when I came home every day. Okay, I'll earn the money, so leave it to me. I feel like I said that. I was really out of control back then. I have always been alone and never had anyone to rely on. So I was glad my wife asked me to do it. We were living a lovey-dovey life like that. But by the time a year had passed, for some reason, my wife had become distant. When I returned home, my wife was gone and the dishes I used in the morning were still there. She would come home late at night and said, I was at that place, and go straight to the bathroom. Once, when I asked her where she had been, she was upset. You know, where do you go at night these days?
Shut up. You just have to earn your money. Don't constrain my actions.
Okay, okay. She yelled at me like that. I was shocked the first time I was yelled at, and from then on, I decided not to talk about her behavior. I didn't want my dear wife to hate me and I didn't want to see her angry face. Then one day, I came home from work and found my wife's shoes and the shoes of a man I didn't know. I had a bad feeling about this, and when I went to the bedroom, there was my wife and a man I didn't know, and they were in the aftermath of having done it.
Oh, welcome back. Hey, I got your nice wife.
Chris was a rascal to look at. Not that I should say that myself, but seriously, he looks like a bad guy from a Yankee comic book. The guy stood up in his underwear when I froze and approached me. And he suddenly hit me. It was a pretty good fist, and a straight right hand from him knocked me down. They looked down on me and mocked me.
Seriously, you're only as strong as your face. Just as I'd heard. Right? He's a scruffy, no good guy on the inside. Really, if he didn't have money, I wouldn't have married such a shady guy.
My wife also got dressed and started smoking a cigarette that was on the side chest. She was enjoying it so much. It was the first time I saw it and learned that my wife smoked cigarettes. Leaving me in a daze, the conversation went on and on.
But you're already divorced, right? Alright, hey, give me the money if you don't want any more beatings. I am a gangster. If you don't want to die, do what I say.
Gangster. When I heard gangster, I couldn't help but ask back.
That's right. Yes, he is a gangster from a famous gang. You are going to be our ATM from now on. You were a student and yet you had enough money to buy a house, right? I heard from Amy that your parents bought this house. I'm jealous of you. I envy you, so share it with me. Give me $5,000 for the trouble. Go cry to your mom or dad for help.
Well, I didn't want to be at the mercy of Chris as it was. I still haven't accepted the shock of being betrayed by my beloved wife. Of course, I don't want to ask my family for money for this reason. Not knowing what to do, I could only be frightened. I don't know where the two of them met, but probably at a club or something. When I looked at my credit card statement later, I saw that my wife was out every night. Being a coward, I couldn't do anything about it and just shivered. I guess they didn't like that. Chris then kicked me. I was kicked in the back, stomach, and head over and over again.
Bring it on, you little bitch. I can cut your fingers if you want, okay?
I don't want that, please.
Then go to your rich and sweet mom and dad and get the money. I've got a family of chickens just like you, with all the money but none to show for it. How ugly you all are.
My wife laughed at not only me, but at my family. So I reached my limit. Okay, I'll bring it. After saying this, I took out my cell phone and after some hesitation, I made a call to a certain person. Hi, I'm being asked for money by the gangster with whom my wife is having an affair. What? I don't know. It's not real. Huh? Oh, no, that's okay. You guys don't have to come. Hello? Hey, hello. In despair over the call that hung up on me, I told them both. It's your fault that this happened. I didn't want to call them.
Huh? What are you talking about?
I said, half crying, to the two who looked at me blankly. Right now, my subordinate is coming with $10,000. I'll be right back, just wait a minute.
$10,000. You know what I mean. Can I go to McDonald's? Huh? Why, your men would be surprised if you weren't here. Let's greet them warmly together.
No, I don't like that. Contrary to the happy Chris, Amy asked, "Who's your subordinate?" and looked at me with a strange look on her face. Actually, my wife and I have not met our respective families. I really wanted to, but my parents didn't want to. We didn't even have a wedding, so my wife doesn't know my parents. I think that's why I did what I did. Not more than 5 minutes later, I heard the sound of a motorcycle from outside. I saw not just one, but dozens of them. It was quite noisy. Our house is far from the city, but there are normal houses around. Sorry, neighbors, I thought to myself as I looked out the window. The windows face the street and the front door is immediately visible. There it was, just as I had imagined it.
What the hell is wrong with them? What is this?
They were surprised to see what they saw. Black cars and heavy-duty motorcycles lined the streets. And there were some gruff-looking men in places. I sighed at the familiar sights, the familiar faces. I looked at them with the feeling that I could not care less. Actually, my family is a gang. They burst through the front door and entered the bedroom with a slamming sound. The first man to enter was a short but well-built man named Mark.
Boss, I brought you $10,000. I brought Clive and handcuffs along with me. You'll need them, won't you?
Mark smiled wickedly and held out an envelope in his hand. Oh, thank you.
Boss, what's wrong with your cheek?
Just a little.
You don't mean to tell me you were hit by that man?
Well. The next moment, a loud noise rang through the room. Mark threw Chris on his back and knocked him to the floor. He got on top of Chris and used his fist mercilessly.
You think you can just punch our boss and get away with it?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mark is strong. Furthermore, he is a psycho who likes to commit atrocities and is not reserved. In no time at all, Chris's face was covered in blood, and the red stuff was scattered all around. No, no. Amy screamed as Chris was made into a mess in front of her eyes. I looked at the fresh blood and thought, it'll be hard to clean everything up.
Boss, you don't think this guy is a gangster, do you?
Yeah.
Too soft for that, don't you think? Hey, tell me what group you're from.
Chris was beaten up further and was crying with a bloody nose. Chris gasped and his voice came out.
The Dragon's Gang.
The Dragon's Gang.
Huh. The Dragon's Gang. Isn't that where we had our fight the other day? I thought I had ripped them all to shreds. I guess the survivors didn't like it. I'll just finish it right here.
Mark raised his fist.
Hey, stop it already.
But then Amy's voice rang out.
What the hell is wrong with you? Tom, what the hell is this? Is this the guy you said was your man? I don't understand why this little fat guy is your subordinate. Let go of Chris.
Mark quietly snapped at her. When I saw his stance, I had a very bad feeling. He stood up and grabbed her by the neck and held her against the wall. Then he took her cigarette that was by her side and...
No.
She screamed. I will leave it to your imagination what Mark did. Sorry, but I could imagine this happening when I called. So I didn't want to do it, but my wife and Chris deserved it. Besides, my wife was cheating on me. Once I saw the aftermath, my feelings for my wife were gone. Mark also heard that she had cheated on me, so he didn't hesitate.
Don't talk to me like a whore. Now you want me to fry your eyeballs out.
I'm sorry, forgive me already.
I ain't going to take it easy on you just because you're our young boss wife. Boss, you don't want this woman, do you?
What? Oh yeah, do whatever you want. Tom. My wife looked at me accusingly, but I didn't care. I'll leave the rest to you, Mark.
Mark? Do you know him, Chris? All the gangsters know him, he's a dangerous guy. I never thought the real one would show up.
Chris rattled and was shaking. Before I knew it, liquid had spread out on the floor. Chris must have leaked it. It was even more difficult to clean. I was disgusted by the smell and left Mark to dispose of it. Mark called his subordinates and had them carry Amy and Chris between them. The two of them were making noise all the time, they were just too loud. Left behind alone, I looked at the dirty room and sighed, this is why I hated it. A few hours later, my wife's completed divorce papers were delivered by Mark. I filled out the form as it was and submitted it to the court. And I went back to my parents' house because I didn't want to stay in a dirty house. I talked a lot with my parents there. When I entered the room, my father was just cutting the woman's fingers. "Gee, are you doing it again?"
What's that, Tom? Money again?
"No, it's not. My dad loves to cut fingers, and he looked very happy at that moment. That's why my father himself takes on the responsibility, even though his subordinates are supposed to do it. He must be a gangster at heart. I look just like my dad, but inside I'm the complete opposite. I had seen my dad's brutality for a long time and I hated the act. 3 of his subordinates restrained the woman and dared her to speak freely. Then my mother came over and served me tea. Dad was having fun in the center of the room, while my mom and I drank tea in the corner. It was quite a surreal scene, but this was normal for our family. Anyway, I reported to my dad that I was divorced. You know, I'm divorced.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
He stopped what he was doing and listened to the story. "I'm sorry for everything you've done for me."
Well, I heard what happened. It can't be helped since she was the one who cheated.
Yeah, I guess so. Good luck finding someone new. So what happened to your ex-wife?
I asked Mark to do it, so I guess it will happen, right? She might have had a little taste of it by now.
So the punishment room is in use.
We have a room in our house called the punishment room, which has nothing but mats. My dad does the finger cutting there, and Mark used to do it, too. I'm sure my wife and Chris got a taste of all kinds of people there. The next day, the wife and Chris were taken to a place. It is a so-called backroom auction where human and organ traffickers also operate. It seems that family registers were sometimes sold before. Of course, the people who participate are all from the underworld. There is no one there who would ask for a normal product. Chris and Amy were apparently sold to a pervert known for his special interests. I don't know if they'll be alive a year from now, but well, I wish them the best of luck. They offered me the money from the sale as a consolation prize, but I refused. It's just a way to pay back for what I've been getting from my parents. It seems like they were kind to me that day because they thought I might have been hurt. But then my dad was firmly pissed at me. When I was called later and went to his room, the first thing he did was to make me get down on my knees.
You said you would protect and take care of your wife even if she died, right?
Yes.
So I allowed you to marry her, remember?
Yes, of course.
Then you also remember that I told you I'd cut your fingers when you get divorced, don't you?
My father is kind when he's soft, but strict when he's harsh, especially when someone breaks a promise. Before I got married, I vowed to love my wife for the rest of my life in front of him. I also vowed to let him cut my finger if I break this vow. So, he cut my fingers as he smiled. However, he didn't cut all my toe fingers. So, he was still considerate of me. I'm doing a lot of things now as the heir apparent, but my father says he respects my feelings and I'm going to think it over.